Welcome to Forgotten TV, a new podcast where we will share memories of TV from the 70s and 80s with a focus on short-lived TV shows, pilots, and made-for-TV movies. So, why do I have a podcast and who am I? Well, my name is Chris Cooling, and if you want to scroll back and listen to episode 0, there's a little bit of an introduction as to what you can look forward to on this show. I had the Forgotten TV website 10 years ago. It was one of a couple of blogs that I did on a regular basis, and this is my second podcast that I've produced. I had a podcast about 8 years ago with the incredibly original topic of tech news, and having been inspired by other podcasts and broadcasters such as Leo Laporte, Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak, with their shows, the No Agenda Show, Leo Laporte with his Tech Guy podcasts and other shows. I was a big listener to Stuck in the 80s, produced by the Tampa Bay Times with Steve Spears and Sean Daly, and that show still continues today. So here I am, producing a podcast and sort of resurrecting the idea of Forgotten TV. I grew up in the 1970s and 80s, and originally watching a black and white television, probably until the late 70s, or somewhere right around 1979, where we got a color television. I specifically remember watching episodes of Voyagers and Galactica 1980 in color, so I knew it was somewhere right around 1979 where we transitioned to color television. And all of my watching as a kid was over broadcast television. We did not have cable TV. It was the old school rooftop TV antenna, 30 foot off of the ground on a pole, TV antenna you bought from Radio Shack and stuck on top of your house, and you still see some of those in neighborhoods now, driving through older sections of wherever you live. You can see these antennas on top of TV, and all of that still works. The TV transition to digital, the old antennas will still bring in the over-the-air signals, but we didn't even have a VCR until the end of 1985. And until then, TV was an ephemeral thing. The fortunate few that had a VCR could record TV shows and watch them at a future date, but this was not something that was known to my household, certainly not until I was about 16 years old. And so if you missed the show, I mean, you had to wait for it to be repeated. Some episodes you just didn't see for years later until the whole show was rerun. And information about TV was not readily available. I mean, sure, there was TV Guide was certainly a thing, the TV supplement in the newspaper, great magazines such as Starlog and others that let you know quite a bit about some genre movies and TV shows. There was fanzines, the amateur productions that were photocopied, mimeographed, and distributed by hand. Some of us wrote our own episode guides back in the day because you just didn't have Wikipedia and IMDb to pull up all this information. I remember the first books I remember regularly thumbing through was a great big paperback book, Television 1970 to 1980 by Vincent Terrace. And for a whole year, I think in 1984, we didn't even have a television for almost that entire year and did traveling. And I read that book quite a bit. My first job was at a movie theater. I worked at a movie theater for 6 years, starting in 1985. So right in the middle of the 1980s is when I began my working career. And before my job at a movie theater was over, I did even some radio work. I did some weekend board operation, radio commercial production and recording, so I do have a little bit of broadcast and public speaking background. And recently, having started the Walnut Grovecast, the Little House on the Prairie podcast that I co-host with Mark Giacomo on the VHS Rewind Network. This sort of inspired me to develop Forgotten TV into its own show and rejuvenate the website and turn it into a podcast. So return with me now to 30 years ago, March 1987. Let's see what's on.
Life is such a sweet insanity.
Tonight on Forgotten TV, Bruce Norris, Penelope Ann Miller, and Faith Ford star in The Popcorn Kid. Next. The Popcorn Kid ran from March 23rd to April 24th, 1987. It only ran 6 episodes. The show premiered on a Monday, but was moved quickly to Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Central, replacing Scarecrow and Mrs. King, which happened to be on hiatus before CBS aired the final 4 episodes of that series. It occupied a strange Friday night time slot, right before Dallas and Falcon Crest, and right after another new sitcom that was short-lived on CBS called Nothing is Easy. The show was created by Mark Ganzel, known for producing and writing shows like Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, The Good Book, and Coach, and also Barry Kemp was the show's writer and producer, and was also known for Coach and Newhart. The show was filmed live at CBS Studios, which is somehow appropriate, seeing that it was set at a movie theater. You can definitely tell the difference between shows of the time period that were filmed versus videotaped before an audience. Shows that were filmed had a softer, more cinematic appearance. I'm thinking of shows like Cheers and Taxi. If you want to compare that to shows like Alf and Full House, which were shot on videotape and have a much harsher video-style appearance. The show was set at the fictional Vintage Majestic Theater in Kansas City. The lead actor was young Bruce Norris, who played Scott Kreisman, the Popcorn Kid, a 16-year-old boy that was working at the Majestic Theater. This is our introduction to Scott.
The Majestic Theater is one of the oldest theaters in Kansas City. But it's really more than a movie theater. It's a movie palace, you know? They don't build places like this anymore. I've wanted to work in the Majestic as long as I can remember. See, the truth is, I'd like to be in the movie business someday, yeah. I don't know as what exactly. Maybe a writer, maybe a director, maybe a star. Right now I'm just trying to be realistic and keep my options open. But as long as I'm living in Kansas City, this is where my parents live, then I figure that working in the Majestic is about as close to the movie business as I'm going to get.
That's interesting. Can I have my popcorn and root beer now?
Sure.
Thanks.
Just the popcorn and no speeches.
The first episode introduced Lynn Holly Brickhouse, played by the perky Faith Ford, in her first regular TV role.
Well, if you want to know the truth, I didn't honestly want a job.
Really? You seem so perky.
Well, thank you. But that's just something I do. It comes to me naturally, like crying or looking really interested in people.
Level-headed Gwen was played by Penelope Ann Miller, which this was also her first regular TV role.
I don't think about her one way or the other. It's just that every time I think about her at those cheerleading tryouts this year, I worked out for 2 weeks getting ready for those. And on the day of the competition, nobody had more pep than I did. But Lynn Holly saunters in, and just because she looks like she looks, she gets picked. It's always the way it is with her. She doesn't have to do anything. People just accept her because she's...
The flagship of the female fleet.
The character Willie Dawson was played by Jeff Joseph, and the wacky projectionist Marlon Bond was played by John Christopher Jones. Actor Ray Burke rounded out the cast as the boss, Mr. Brown. Scott's obvious attraction to Lynn Holly is a recurring theme throughout the short run of this series. In the second episode, Scott helps Lynn Holly prepare for a beauty pageant and discovers she has no talent. One episode dealt with Scott's relationship with his father, who wants him to give up his show business aspirations. There was a notable episode with Ed Asner, where the theater arranged a film festival with him as the focus, and the crew is stuck in the basement with him during a tornado warning. In the 1980s, there was a definite shift in the style of movie theaters, where previously towns would have a single downtown movie theater, perhaps a twin screened theater. But in the early 1980s, probably slightly before, with the rise of shopping malls, the theater multiplex is something that started to become popular. The very first episode actually deals with the subject of the theater owner wanting to turn the Majestic Theater from a single-screened historic theater into a multiplex. And we are treated to Scott's objections and how he ends up saving the theater. Bruce Norris is still an occasional actor. We see him on television from time to time on TV shows such as Third Watch and the different Law and Order TV series. Penelope Ann Miller more frequently appears on movies and TV shows. She's been featured in such shows as The Closer, Vanished, and Men of a Certain Age. Faith Ford is probably the most well-known out of the Popcorn Kid crew. After her run on the Popcorn Kid, she of course went on to star in the show Murphy Brown for its 10-year run. And she was also in the TV series Maggie Winters, as well as Hope and Faith. Here's another great clip I always remember that sort of gives us Scott's character in a nutshell.
Priest Mud? You want to record the show times for this week? I know you get a kick out of that.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. Hello, you've reached the beautiful Majestic Theater located at 2222 Algonquin Parkway in downtown Kansas City.
This week, the Majestic is proud to present for 1 week only the all-time Hollywood classic Gone with the Wind, starring Clark Gable, Olivia de Havilland, Vivian Leigh, and Scott Kreisman.
Unfortunately, due to its extremely short run and limited interest, we are unlikely to ever get any kind of an official release for the Popcorn Kid. In fact, for a number of years, I failed to find any recordings of it whatsoever on YouTube or on the other gray market sites on the internet. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago that somebody started to upload their recordings of the Popcorn Kid, and I want to thank Mantronic's Retro TV and his YouTube channel for providing the clips for us today.
Share the spirit of CBS. Come share the thrill of good times together. Share the joy of giving all your best. Share the tears and laughter, excitement in the air. Share the loving,
daring,
laughing,
caring.
Share the spirit of CBS.
As we move forward in time, this is a segment that will appear too often on Forgotten TV, the ones we've recently lost. Veteran TV and film actor Lawrence Montaigne has died at age 86. He was well known to Star Trek fans for his roles as the Vulcan Stan in the episode Amok Time, as well as his appearance as a Romulan in the episode Balance of Terror. At one time, he was considered for the role of Spock before Leonard Nimoy was signed. He has over 200 TV episode credits, including appearances on The Outer Limits, The Fugitive, I Spy, The Time Tunnel, Batman, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, and more. Actor Bill Paxton has died at age 61. Obviously well known for his roles in such films as Aliens, Titanic, Apollo 13, and Twister. He acted in a number of forgotten TV shows, such as The 6 O'Clock Follies from 1980, McLean's Law, and Fresno. Bill Paxton was 61. Looking at other forgotten TV from the 1986 to 87 season, CBS had the lead-in show to the Popcorn Kid, which was Together We Stand, which was also known as Nothing Is Easy. It starred Elliot Gould and Dee Wallace. CBS also had The Wizard with David Rappaport and Doug Barr, a show called Better Days, Roxy, and Spies with George Hamilton. Over on NBC, Sweet Surrender, You Again with Jack Klugman, Roomies, The Tortellis, and Nothing in Common. ABC had Sidekicks, Starman, Gung Ho, The Charmings, Dads, and Jack and Mike with Shelley Hack. Over on the new network Fox, The New Adventures of Beans Baxter, as well as Werewolf and Mr. President with George C. Scott, were all forgotten TV from the 1986 to 87 season. So we definitely have lots to talk about on Forgotten TV. Thank you very much for joining me for this initial episode of Forgotten TV. Find us on the web at forgotten.tv, which will link you up to our Facebook page as well as Twitter. Please interact with us there. Find us on Podbean or on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, I'm Chris Cooling, and this has been Forgotten TV.